Bet you didn't see this coming, did you? Hello everyone, it is Joshua, Future Filmmaker Reviews. I talk movies, TV, music, and anime. If you guys are new to the channel, all my social media links to my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, Snapchat, Hive, all of that is in the description box down below, as well as my Amazon wish list. If you would like to see what I want from my wish list, as well as my Cash App, if you want to financially support the channel. If you guys are new here, be sure to like the video. Tell me your thoughts on what we're about to talk about. Comment down below what you think of this movie we're about to talk about. Be sure to share this video with your friends because it does help more people know it's my channel, and it does help the algorithm. And be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification. That way you won't miss more videos like this. I figured, leading up to 2 different video game adaptations, I figured that I want to give classic movie reviews a chance to make a comeback in the way I want to do it. And we're going to start this off with 2 of the most well-known failures in the video game movie adaptations. Video game movie adaptations has been a pretty hard, difficult thing to do. There are some good ones like the Mortal Kombat 2021 movie, the 90s one, the 2 Tomb Raider movies. For me personally, the Sonic the Hedgehog ones, just recently with the Last of Us TV show. And those are showing that video game movies can make a comeback. But before we get to more doing adaptations of video games rights, we do have to talk about 2 of them that are not the most well loved. So what I'm going to do is, this is going to be my thoughts on my reviews for Dungeons and Dragons. And this is going to be for Super Mario Bros. 1993. These will be edited standalone. So, with that being said, this is going to be a lot of fun to do. I figured to do them best in one giant little live record. So, there will be some edits and some slow pauses here. You'll see the stuff there. So with that being said, let's get started and talk about the first adaptation that not too many are fond of, leading up to its new predecessor, Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, and that is the 2000s adaptation of Dungeons & Dragons. Let's get into it. So Dungeons & Dragons was released in the year 2000, on December 8th. The release date, this was directed by Courtney Sullivan, adapted from the role-play game of the same name. This stars Jeremy Irons, Justin Whalen, Marlon Wayans, Thora Birch, Bruce Payne, Kia Jam, Zoe McClellan, and a bunch of other actors in here. So in the Kingdom of Izmer, wizards use their magic to rule the land. The young Empress Savina, played by Thora Birch, desires to use magic for good, but the evil Profion plans to utilize his powers to usurp the throne and take the throne from Savina and subject the kingdom to his totalitarian rule. Profion gains control of the kingdom's golden dragons, while Savina sets out to win control of the even more powerful red dragons, gaining the alliance of a motley group of individuals along the way. And that's what we got here. This movie is known for having a lot of production troubles going for it. The script was supposed to be done, of course, in the 90s, and they tried to make a version of this back in the 80s, but there was a strong interest because of the game's popularity. There were several scripts and stuff going around, conflicts going around, and negotiations with TSR and studio deals, and there was a lot of stuff going on. As far as Joel Silver goes, he was the executive producer at the time, and then they began writing the script back in 1991. it was supposed to be at least a film trilogy, but obvious reasons that, and then they started casting the movie, and then when we got to the post-production and stuff. So with that being said, this is also a very difficult production, of course, and this has been considered to be one of the most hated films of all time. This movie was heavily marketed with a lot of promotion, but then again, the movie did not live up to the standards. They wanted this to be more combat, but the movie came out. This movie got blasted by people in Rotten Tomatoes. Who cares about them? Blasted by fans, blasted by even fantasy fans, and this movie bombed internationally and in the US. So with that, all of that going around, this is still considered as one of the worst video game adaptations ever. And there was a lot of investors and license holder interference, and then his own experience in filmmaking. And the director has since gone on to say that he regrets doing this. And this got some very bad award nominations from the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards. When I first saw this years ago, I was young, and I remember liking the movie. I didn't know much about Dungeons and Dragons, but I went into it with an optimistic mindset, and I definitely liked the film for what it was. So I was very interested to see how, with this new movie coming out, how would my rewatch of this go? And I watched it just a few days ago. If you guys keep up with me on Letterboxd, I did have some little nostalgia for it. Of course, I never played the games as such, but I still went in and wanted to give this a chance, or with fresh eyes from a critical standpoint. And so my overall reception. So when it comes to this rewatch overall, this is a movie I don't hate. I do not hate the movie. It's definitely not the best in terms of video game adaptations, but it's definitely not the worst here. Like I said, you can definitely tell there are some iffy, very obvious problems with some of the production stuff, some of the drama that went on behind the scenes. And in terms of not respecting the source material, it doesn't really do a good job with that here. There's still a part of me that can get a little bit invested into what's going on in here. So I'll start off with the things I like in this. The things I do like in this movie, I will say I do like the production design and the costume design, the landscape. The budget is pretty sizable, pretty minimal, but the movie uses its budget to the best of its abilities. And with a movie like this, you do have to at least give credit to what they were trying to go for, even if it didn't 100% work. So I will say, I do think the budget for this movie is on screen for the most part in terms of practicality with the production design, costume design, the hair and makeup, and with the costume design. So I can definitely give credit for that, and you do get that. So I definitely do really much give credit to the filmmakers. They tried their best with the $45 million budget, and they were able to make something out of it and make it look at least competent. So I will also say the fight choreography and the action scenes, while it's not some of the best action you'll ever see, I will say there is some good action moments here for what is required. It's not the most groundbreaking action you'll ever see, but it is definitely there, and it definitely does help that you have solid enough editing and solid enough fight choreography and good actors trying to do a good job in the performances wise. There's some aspects of the story with Thora Birch's character trying to do good and Jeremy Irons' character trying to do bad things with magic. It does do what it set out to do. I've only seen one of these Dungeons and Dragons movies. I know there's a trilogy before there's a new one, but sorry for what they tried to do, I do think they did the best job they could here. I will also say the score here by Justin Burnett is very good. I do like the score. It's very creative, very John Williams-esque, Raiders of the Lost Ark is, but it was a nice change of pace for the composer, and the score is good. I do like the score in the movie overall. So you can definitely tell that the score is at least epic in some parts. Some of it is a little bit cliche, but I will say the score overall, for the most part, works. And I will say most of this cast does the best they can in this movie. Justin Whalen does good as Ridley Freeborn. He's a thief and rogue. He has some good chemistry. I liked him in Child's Play 3. I'm one of the people who actually likes Child's Play 3 now. I think he does the best he can for what he's given her. Also say Lee Arenberg as Elwood, Dwarf Fighter, Kristen Wilson as Norda, Thora Birch as Empress Savina, and Bruce Payne. They do the best they can in their roles for what is given. I think they do pretty serviceable jobs here. Also, they do have some decent chemistry. Despite the material not being the strongest, I will say that I do think the script definitely does help these actors do a lot for what they have to do. So for that, I definitely will give credit where credit is due. And also, with a little bit of nostalgia here, I do just enjoy the adventure side of things, the more dragons, the fantastical elements. All of that is still present, despite this not being a 100% adaptation of Dungeons and Dragons, but it does do the best job it knows how to do in terms of what you can do in the fantasy world. And of course, it does try to, at least. I do think the director, despite his inexperience and some of the stuff that went on behind the scenes, they did do the best they could for what is going on. So for that, I do give them credit for what they try to do. And now moving on to the negatives of this movie. This movie definitely has some very, very not good acting here. Marlon Wayans here, I mean no disrespect to Marlon Wayans. I love the guy. He's a very good actor when you give him something to do. He has a few good moments here, but as Snails, he is the comic relief. He's the rogue and thief. But there are some very over-the-top moments, especially with him screaming, that gets a little bit repetitive. And I'm not sure if it was him. I'm not sure if it was the direction or the writing. But this character overall just did not really work for me. And fortunately, definitely does stick out like a sore thumb. Also, Zoe McClellan, I think she also was pretty underutilized here for what she had to do. There are some moments in this movie where her performance just is very boring, very monotone. Again, I don't blame her for this. I think she does the best she can. I seen her do other things, not a whole lot, but I haven't seen her a lot since this. But I will say, for the little stuff that she has done after this, Star Trek Voyager clips, such, she's very good in those. But here, I think it was just the script that was kind of making her look weak. And the worst case offender, oh man, Jeremy Irons is a great actor, but his performance in this movie is insanely over the top and very on the nose, to the point where it gets a little bit annoying. So his performance in this movie really sticks out like a sore thumb. It's very over the top, it's very ridiculous, and it is just very weak. And honestly, this was a waste of his talent too. The movie also has some very terrible effects. The effects in this movie are bad, like really bad. And you could tell where the budget restraints were, because the effects here, some of it looks nice, but a lot of the effects in this movie are extremely dated in this movie, and it definitely does distract from most of the movie. Some of the effects was like PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 graphics. It was the 2000s, CGI wasn't up par yet, but there's been better movies with CGI like this, for better and sometimes for worse. And this is one of the worst examples of some of the most dated CGI ever. The script directions, as far as respectful as the source material, it doesn't really feel much like a Dungeons and Dragons movie. I haven't played Dungeons and Dragons, but there's no way this new one can be as worse as far as respecting source material, because this does not feel anything like a Dungeons and Dragons movie. The scripts and characters, you could tell there's a lot of things missing from the famous toy game. And the script at points, goes from point A to point B here. There's a lot of exposition that's cut out that we don't know much of. There's a lot of character story development you don't get to know much about. And that definitely is a flaw in this movie. That definitely does frustrate a little bit. And the biggest decision with this is the pacing. This is only an hour and 48 minutes. And while I appreciate it, there are moments in here where this film becomes a bit of a drag. So at the end of the day, it's just a very problematic movie. As for my final thoughts, this is not a bad movie. It's just definitely one of the lesser known movies. And I definitely don't have that same nostalgia as I did with that last watch I had years ago. So this is a movie where it has some things I like, but there's a lot of decisions here that definitely need to be fixed. It needed a lot more with the direction, with the story writing, some of the iffy casting, and hopefully with Honor Among Thieves, I do think that movie will do more justice to its source material than this did. All in all, I don't hate the movie. I think the movie's fine. For what you're given, this movie is fine. It's such a brain-off, entertaining at best film, but there is far too many problems for me to say it's a good movie. So on my rating system, I will say you could stream this thing on. If you can find it on streaming, definitely watch it. Don't expect this to be the greatest thing ever, but this is definitely one of the weaker films in terms of video game adaptations. But it is not as bad as something like Alone in the Dark. Ooh. Wait till October. That's all I'm going to say. Just wait till October, because a lot of October reviews are going to be pre-recorded. Because I got some serious thoughts on Alone in the Dark. Well, that's going to do it for the video that you just watched. I will have my channel here, so you would like to see anything here. Click the channel icon, subscribe for more. I will also leave a video and maybe a playlist here, so in case you want to see what I'm about. As always, stay Epictasticness, join the Epictasticness, and you guys keep it cool.